Hello children, how are you all today? I hope you all are healthy and happy. So children, for today's English lesson, we are going to start a new chapter from your English Supplementary Reader book, An Alien Hand. And this story is an Iranian folklore. I told you what is a folklore when we have learnt the chapter, when we have read the chapter, The Friendly Mongoose. I told you about folklores and Panchatantra stories. So this story has travelled far and wide to us, to reach us through narration. Okay, someone has told this story to someone, and thus they have passed through generations on, and then it had traveled the whole world and it has now reached to us. We are going to read about an Iranian story which has a shepherd in it, and we will find how after being poor, so poor, he manages his life. So let's get started with the story and let's see what lesson or what teachings we have in this story for us. Okay, let's get started. You will find this chapter on page number 7 of your book, and it's chapter 3. So let's get started with the reading of the text first. A poor shepherd once lived in Iran. Okay, do you know where is Iran? If you don't know, just go through the world map and find out where you can see Iran. Okay, so tell me in your online class you did find it or not. Okay. Though uneducated, he was very wise and helpful. Okay, although he was uneducated, he was illiterate, he did not know how to read and write, but he was very wise. Okay, he was very wise and helpful. You see, people think that when we are educated, then only we can gain knowledge. We can gain knowledge, we can gain wisdom through our experience as well. Okay, so not all bookish knowledge will give you wisdom. Okay, so you understand this, that he was uneducated but still he was very wise. He had a greater sense of knowledge and he was very helpful. This was also important, that he was not proud, he was very helpful. He used to help the needy. The king decided to meet him in disguise. So because he was so helpful, the king of Iran learnt about him, okay, and then he decides to meet him. He does not reveal his identity that he is the king of Iran, okay, and he will meet the person, he will meet the shepherd in the disguise of a common man, okay. The kings are royal, right? They're from royal family, they have their robe, they have their crown, but he left everything on the mule and then he went to the shepherd just as a common man. Now we will read the main story. Let's see what happens in the story. In a village in Iran, there once lived a shepherd. So who is a shepherd? Someone or a person who tends sheep. Okay, sheep is what? They like you can see this one. Yes, so sheep are usually animals which have wool. You can see them. So the shepherd tends sheep, and actually it's a herd of sheep, right? So they live in pastoral land, in grassy areas, and they tend sheep. Okay, now let's read. He was very poor. I told you that he had no money. He was very poor. He did not have even a small village of his own, small cottage of his own. Okay, so he did not have a small house to live in. Okay, he somehow managed to find a place that was cave. Okay, let's see where he lived. So he could not manage a cottage, even he could not manage a small house because he was so poor. He had no money. He was really poverty stricken. He had never been to school or learned to read and write. Now in the first point only, in the first bullet point, I told you that he was okay. In the second one I told you that he was uneducated, and because why he did not learn to read and write? Because there were very few schools in those days. You know, right? It's talking about ancient days. So there were not many schools like we have today. Though poor and uneducated, this shepherd was very wise. Okay, he was uneducated, but that doesn't mean he lacked knowledge. He had enough of knowledge. He had seen the world and he understood how it works. So he was very wise and he was very helpful. He understood people's sorrows and trouble. Okay, he was poor, but still he managed to help people. Okay, you should have that purpose in life. You should have the intention to serve. Doesn't matter if you are poor or if you do not have enough money, but you should have a good heart. You should have good intention. So we can see the shepherd had a very pure heart. He used to serve everyone. He was troubled when someone else was in problem. Okay, so he always helped people because he understood their sorrows. Sorrows means what? Their sadness, their pain, and troubles. Troubles are problems, right? So he understood people's sorrows and problems and helped them face their problems with courage. Okay, the only thing you need to face your problem is courage, to be courageous. Okay, to be brave enough to tackle, to know that this will pass on. Okay, this will pass off. So we know that pain or happiness doesn't last long. Okay, everything has a time and we need to have that strength, the courage to bear it all. Okay, and common sense. Yes, if you are educated and you lack common sense, like what to do at a specific situation, you should have that common sense. Like if you are educated, even if you have read a lot of books, and if you don't know how to apply it practically, then it's no use, right? Reading books, gaining knowledge is very important. Theoretically, if you are settled, but if you don't know how to apply all those practically in real life, in reality, then you might have a problem. You might have a lack of common sense. Okay, so he told people who were in trouble, who were in problems, who were suffering, okay, to face all these problems with courage, with bravery. Okay, many people came to him for advice. Okay, because he was so wise, he had common sense. When people find someone who can advise you in your benefit or in your advantage, you go to them, right? So here also we can see that the shepherd was so wise and so concerned about people, so much worried. He so much paid attention to their sorrows that people came to him for his advice. Okay, soon he became famous for his wisdom and friendly nature. So because he was so friendly, because he had so much of wisdom, he became very famous. Everyone used to go to the shepherd. Now if I'm talking to you and you're discussing a problem to me, I know that the shepherd can solve a problem, so you go to the shepherd. Now like this, his people increased. Okay, the people who knew him increased, and his advices were very valuable, so they treasured it. Okay, they kept it safe. The king of that country heard about him and thought of meeting him. So what happens next? The king of Iran heard the story that some shepherd is there, a shepherd is there who can give good advices, and people are happy when they tend or they listen to his advice. So what does the king do? The king decides to meet him. Okay, he wants to go there at the shepherd's place and meet him. Disguised as a shepherd and riding on a mule, one day the king came to the cave where the wise shepherd lived. So I told you that the shepherd was so poor that he could not afford a house for himself. He could not have a house for himself. So where did he live? He lived in a cave. So the king who decided to meet the shepherd now has to go to the cave and meet him. Okay, so he disguised himself as a shepherd. Okay, an Iranian shepherd would look something like this. He wore this robe, he wore a dress inside it, he wore a robe and went inside to meet the shepherd. Okay, now he was riding on a mule. Mule is somewhat like a donkey only, okay, but a better version, I think. So mule is like horse and donkey. Okay, it's like that combination. You can imagine that, its appearance. As soon as the shepherd saw the traveler coming towards the cave, he rose to welcome him. Okay, because he saw that someone has come down, means someone has left his mule and he is coming towards the cave, so he thought it necessary that he should go and welcome the traveler. Traveler is someone who is traveling, okay, who is going places to places, who is traveling from places to places. He took the tired traveler inside the cave. Okay, so this normally a good host, someone who is attending a guest, okay, they do this, right? They are friendly, they are hospitable. That means what? He took him inside because he was tired. The traveler had traveled so much of distance. The king has traveled on the mule for so long and he must be tired, right? So he was tired, and now the shepherd took the king inside his cave. Gave him water to drink. Okay, like a good host, he offered him water, he gave him water to drink and a share of his own meager meal. Okay, so what do we see here? That his meal he shared with the king also. Meager means what? It means small amount, because he was poor, I told you. He did not have much, but whatever he had, whatever share he had, he shared half of it with the king, with the traveler who was tired of his journey. The king rested for the night in the cave and was greatly impressed by the shepherd's hospitality and wise conversation. Okay, so the king went there. He was welcomed by the shepherd. He was so impressed, okay, that how can a person so poor be so kind, so generous, that he is helping someone he doesn't know, who is a complete stranger. He offered drink, he offered a meal, a share from his own meal. Actually, he did not have enough, but he shared it. So hospitality is the behavior you show, or the kindness or generosity you show towards your guests or travelers or strangers. So from that only the hospital name has come, because there we are taken care of, right? We go to hospitals and we are taken care of when we visit hospitals, right? So there we can see he was very impressed with the hospitality and with the wise conversation of the shepherd, because earlier he had heard about his wisdom through people only. People only told him that he was wise, but after he talked with him, after he had a very brief and detailed conversation, so this made him realize that yes, the shepherd was a wise person. Now we will move towards the next part. The shepherd was able to make out that his visitor was none other than the king. Because he was wise, I told you, so he understood that the traveler who has come to visit him in the cave is none other than the king of Iran. Okay, the king made the wise shepherd governor of a small district. So now we will see that the shepherd is made a governor. Okay, why he has been made a governor, we will see it later when we read the text. Other governors become jealous of the new governor and called him dishonest. Obviously, when you rise to a position from being poor, you were poor and suddenly you have been given a high position, then what happens? The others around you start getting jealous, right? The other people around you start getting jealous. They envy you. Okay. Then we see what? They try to prove that the shepherd has been dishonest throughout his governorship. Now let's see what happens in the story. Though still tired, the king decided to depart the next morning. So what happens? He was very tired, but still he decided that he must leave, because also in his kingdom, the kingdom needs him, right? He is a king, he cannot stay long away, means for a long time he cannot leave away from the palace. So he decides to go there. Now he has to leave, and he said, "Many thanks for your kindness to a poor traveler, I have a long way to go. Now he will be taking his leave. So as a good guest, he needs to thank the host who has attended to him, who has actually given him a place to rest at night, right? So in the next morning, he decides to leave and he says these words to the traveler. Okay, what did he say? That thank you for your kindness, because you were very kind to me, you were very kind to this traveler. I have a long way to go, because he had traveled so long to meet the shepherd. Now he has to return, so it's a long way. Permit me to leave. He said, okay, please, now you have been a very good host, allow me to go. Okay, allow me to leave. Looking straight into the eyes of his guest, he looked at the guest right into his eyes. The shepherd replied, thank you, your majesty, for paying me the compliment of a visit. Okay, so now we see that he had found out, he now has come to know that the visitor was none other than the king. Okay, so he said, thank you, your majesty, for your kind visit. For the compliment of your visit means what? For your appreciation, actually. Here is for your realization, means you are so humble that you came to meet a common shepherd. So thank you for the compliment of your visit. The king was astonished as well as pleased, because he thought that I did nothing that could reveal my identity. I behaved just like a common shepherd would do, right? So how did this shepherd come to know that I was the king? He was astonished. He was surprised. Okay. Now with this, what do we see? That he was also pleased, okay, because he had heard of his stories, his wisdom from many other people, and now he came to know that all those stories were true, because this person was really wise. He is indeed very wise. Indeed means truly. In reality, he is very wise. He thought to himself. He did not say these words, but he did think in his mind. I need people like him to work for me. Okay, what did he say? That why will he work like a shepherd? He should not tend or keep sheep anymore, right? He should now work for me. I need people like him. You want good people, right? Everyone wants good people. Like our government also want good politicians to work effectively, right? So here we see that the king also thought that this person should be in my court, he should be among my important people, he should work for me. And the king appointed this humble shepherd the governor of a small district. So he could not do much. Together you cannot give a high position, okay? So he made the shepherd a governor of a small district. Okay, so we see here humble word has been used. What does this word means? That who is not proud, who is very grounded. So the king appointed the shepherd as the governor because of his humility. Okay, because he was humble, kind and generous to people. So he appointed him as a governor. Although he rose to power and dignity, the shepherd remained as humble as ever. Okay, after getting power, many people lose their control over their mind. The success gets into their head, but the shepherd was still the old shepherd, receiving so much of honor, so much of respect from people. He stayed humble. Okay, he was yet humble, and people loved and honored him for his wisdom, sympathy and goodness. So even after being made the governor, he was still the same person. He was still the same shepherd who was humble, kind and generous. Okay, so he had a lot of sympathy for all the people around him. Dignity means what? To have been honored, okay, to have respect, to gain respect. So he rose to power and was living a life of dignity, but still all this power he did not allow it to reach in his head. Okay, he was still very close to the common people. He still understood their problems and tried to solve them. Okay, so now he was kind and just to one and all. He did not care whether someone who is seeking for his advice is rich or poor, okay, is from his community or not. He he gave justice equally to everyone. Okay, whoever came to him for help, he helped them unbiasedly. He helped them with pure soul. He gave justice to everyone equally. His fame as a fair and wise governor soon spread throughout the country. So what happened? Because when you are good, people talk about you. People talk about the nice things you are doing, right? So here also we can see, even after made a governor, he was very fair to others. Okay, so he was a fair means what? Who does good, who gives justice to everyone. He did not care of the status of the person who is seeking advice or about anything else. He just thought that he should give them justice. So this was the thing. Now his name or his wisdom, stories of his wisdom spread everywhere throughout the country. The whole of Iran came to know of it. Now the governors of other provinces grew terribly jealous of him and began to talk to the king against him. Now, you know, they started poisoning the ears of the king. Who? The governors. Obviously there are lots of provinces in a kingdom. In a kingdom, the kingdom has been divided into a lots of small territories, provinces and districts. So there were also governors. They thought that we are not being famous, we are not being talked about. They started growing jealous. Okay, they started envying the shepherd who was made the governor of the small district. Now they started poisoning the ears of the king. What do I mean by this? That they started telling bad things about the shepherd to the king. Okay, they wanted the king to remove the shepherd from the governorship. Okay, they said he is very dishonest. What did he say? That he is very dishonest and keeps for himself part of the money that he collects as tax from the people. Now governors were required to collect taxes. They had this work also to do. So what did they say to the king? That the shepherd has been very dishonest throughout. Means after you made him the governor, he had been very dishonest. He is not giving all the money he is collecting as taxes in the nation's treasury. He is not depositing here. Instead, he is keeping some of the treasure to himself. He is collecting the tax and he is keeping that to himself. He is not depositing it in the royal treasury. Why did he always carry with him? They added an iron chest. So if he is not collecting any money, if he is not being dishonest and keeping all the money to himself, then why always he has to carry an iron chest? Iron chest means what? He has that huge chest. Chest is a trunk type thing, okay, that is made of iron. So iron chest, okay. Perhaps he carried in it the treasure that he had secretly collected. So what did they assume? What did they think that the shepherd is collecting in that iron chest? They thought he is collecting the tax money in it, okay, and he carries it everywhere. After all, they said mockingly. Mockingly means making a fun of. They told this thing to the king in a way which made fun of the shepherd's position. He was an ordinary shepherd and could behave no better. So what did they say? That he was just a shepherd. You made him the governor, and they thought that the success went over the head of the governor, the shepherd. So they told that he is not among us. He is not from a civilized family. Okay, he is just a common shepherd. He must have grown greedy. Okay, because he was poor and now he certainly seen so much of money that he might have turned greedy. Now moving to the next part, let's see what the 3 points tell us. The new governor was called to the palace. Okay, after the king heard about all this, he thought of calling the new governor into his palace. He was ordered to explain why he always carried an iron chest. Now he was told that you need to tell us why are you carrying this iron chest with you everywhere you go. Okay, the chest contained no gold or silver. So when the chest was opened, when the iron chest was displayed to all, it was opened, then what do we see? That there was no gold and silver. We will find out what was there in the chest. Okay. At first, the king did not pay attention to these reports. So whatever he was reported, whatever the king heard, he thought that the governors might have some problems with the new governor. That's why they are complaining that he has become dishonest and all. He did not pay any attention to the reports given by the governors of the provinces. Okay. But how long could he ignore these governors and their endless stories about the shepherd? Okay, they kept on saying, telling these stories that he was dishonest, he was doing that and he was doing this, he was not being loyal to the kingdom, to the majesty. So this story couldn't be ignored for long. So what does the king decide? Let's see. One thing was certain, the king discovered. So now all the things that the governors told, the king was certain that he found something. Discovered means what? He discovered something. What did he discover? Let's see. The new governor did carry an iron chest with him all the time. So the king found out that yes, this thing is true. So I must do something with it, because he was, they were right. He was carrying an iron chest to all the places he went. So one day the new governor was summoned to the place. Now what is summoned? Summoned means called to the place. Okay, you are asked to appear in front of the king here. So he was asked, the new governor was asked to come to the palace. He came riding on his camel. So yes, in Iran the most common animal that you will find is the camel, because it is a desert area. So you will find camels common there. He rode a camel, and to everyone's delight, the famous iron chest was there, fastened securely behind him on the camel's back. Okay, why was everyone delighted? Why was everyone happy here? Because they were actually blaming, they were actually accusing the shepherd of carrying this iron chest. So they were very happy that he came with the chest, because the king now would himself see that they were right. Okay, and then he will just remove the shepherd from his position. So the iron chest was right there, and it was fastened securely. Fastened means what? Tied properly. Securely means so that it does not fall. It was tied very nicely, very grippingly behind him on the camel's back. Now the king was angry, because he saw that yes, these governors were right. He is carrying his iron chest to all places. Even when I have called him, he has come with the iron chest only. He thundered. Thundered means what? He said it in a loud voice. When you thunder, when the clouds thunder, what do? They roar, right? So here also the king actually thundered. Thundered means what? He said these words, whatever he will be saying right now, he used a loud voice. Okay, he was angry. Why do you always carry that iron chest with you? So why do you have to carry always this iron chest? What does it contain? Now what does it contain? What do you have in this iron chest? The governor smiled. Okay, he still was very poised, he was very calm. Even after the king was angry, he was going to smile, he was going to answer it politely. He asked his servant to bring in the chest. Okay, the governor had his own attendees, he had his own servant. So he called his servant that now please bring the chest right in front of the king's chair, okay, to the king's throne. How eagerly the people standing around waited for the shepherd to be found out. Now what happened? Because they thought that whenever the king discovers that this person, the new governor has been dishonest, he will just throw him out of the palace and he will have to give away his governorship. So they were very happy. Now the truth is going to be discovered. They were very happy when the chest was brought in. Okay. But how great was their astonishment. Okay, now they were very happy. The chest is going to be displayed. The dishonest shepherd will come into the light. Now when the chest was opened, they were astonished, they were surprised. Okay, now, and even of the king himself, when the chest was opened, no gold or silver or jewels, but an old blanket was all that came out. Okay children, so there was no gold, no silver, no treasure, okay, that we know, no materialistic treasure. But what did the chest contain? What did the iron chest contain? It contained an old blanket. Okay, so it had an old blanket, little bit torn, little bit dull, okay, lost all its color, and all that iron chest just had that piece, okay, had just that blanket. Now children, let it be a surprise what happens next. We will read what happens in the story in our next video lesson. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you hold on to the excitement for what happens next in the story, and we will meet again in our next video lesson. Till then, please take care of your family and yourself. Bye-bye.